Within a tranquil residential district nestled in the heart of Ohio, a woman named Sarah could never have predicted that her magnificent German shepherd, whom she affectionately called Max, would ultimately transform into the singular explanation for her continued existence upon this earth. Throughout 5 remarkable years, Max had maintained consistent behavioral patterns, serene in temperament, enthusiastic during recreation, and unwavering in his allegiance. He never vocalized without legitimate provocation, never displayed hostile tendencies toward anyone, and he perpetually remained stationed beside Sarah's presence. However, during one particular dawn, circumstances underwent a dramatic transformation. Max awakened displaying unprecedented agitation and uneasiness. He trailed Sarah's movements throughout every location, the culinary preparation area, the communal relaxation chamber, even positioning himself outside the lavatory entrance. Nevertheless, the most peculiar element of his conduct. He persisted in pressing his muzzle firmly against her torso, emitting subdued whimpering vocalizations, regarding her with profoundly concerned optical organs. Initially, Sarah responded with amusement and light-hearted laughter. "Max, what peculiar affliction troubles you this morning? Have you consumed something questionable or unusual?" Yet Max exhibited no indication of frivolity. Each occasion she positioned herself in a seated arrangement, he ascended onto her lower limbs and deliberately positioned his appendage upon an identical location, the sinister portion of her thoracic region. Each occasion she elevated herself to a standing posture, he circumnavigated her physical form as though he were maintaining protective vigilance over her well-being. During the nocturnal hours of that particular evening, Sarah regained consciousness to discover Max urgently pawing at her shoulder region. He vocalized distressed sounds, nudged her chest cavity repeatedly, and adamantly refused to permit her to descend back into slumber's embrace. His demeanor proved so extraordinarily atypical that Sarah eventually articulated, "Very well, Max, you have achieved victory in this matter. I shall arrange to have the situation medically examined." The subsequent morning arrived, and she made her journey to a medical facility, predominantly to alleviate her canine companion's inexplicable apprehension and distress. The medical practitioner conducted several diagnostic examinations. Subsequently, additional evaluations were commissioned. Then summoned another specialized medical expert for consultation. Sarah experienced a sinking sensation permeating her cardiovascular organ when the physician returned to the examination chamber, clutching a medical documentation chart. "I find myself profoundly grateful that you arrived for consultation today. Your physical condition reveals early-stage mammary carcinoma, remarkably premature in development, nearly impossible to identify through conventional detection methods. Your canine companion may very well have preserved your existence." Sarah's entire being became immobilized with shock. She directed her gaze fixedly upon the medical professional. Subsequently, lacrimal fluid began cascading from her optical organs, not originating from trepidation, but rather from overwhelming relief and gratitude. Max had perceived something no human individual possessed the capability to discern. German Shepherd canines have maintained documented recognition for their remarkable ability to identify alterations in olfactory signatures when pathological conditions commence their developmental progression within the corporeal vessel, and Max's instincts had proven absolutely accurate. Medical professionals immediately commenced therapeutic intervention protocols. Due to the fortunate circumstance of early identification, the probability statistics for complete recuperation demonstrated extremely elevated percentages. When Sarah completed her homeward journey that particular afternoon, Max welcomed her arrival at the entrance portal, caudal appendage oscillating enthusiastically, optical organs radiating gentleness, as though he possessed prescient knowledge that she had achieved safety. She descended to a kneeling position, encircled her upper limbs around his substantial frame, and articulated in hushed tones, "You rescued my existence, Max, you genuinely preserved my life." Commencing from that transformative day forward, Max never abandoned his position from her immediate proximity throughout the entire duration of medical treatment. He established his resting position adjacent to her sleeping furniture during recuperation periods. He vocalized aggressive warnings at any individual who attempted to generate psychological stress upon her. He even maintained nocturnal slumber with his cranial region positioned upon her thoracic area, as though maintaining sentinel duty over the precise anatomical location where he initially detected perilous circumstances. Several lunar cycles subsequently transpired, and medical practitioners delivered confirmatory intelligence. Sarah had achieved complete liberation from cancerous cellular formations. In contemporary times, Sarah communicates this narrative to every individual who will provide audience. He transcends the mere classification of a domesticated animal. He represents my celestial guardian manifested in physical form. German Shepherd canines don't merely provide affectionate companionship. They furnish protection against threats. They perceive imperceptible dangers. They rescue and preserve lives. The profound bond between guardian and protected. The relationship that flourished between Sarah and Max throughout the subsequent months transformed into something that defied conventional explanation. Neighbors who observed their daily constitutional walks remarked upon the extraordinary synchronization between woman and canine, how Max maintained perpetual awareness of Sarah's emotional fluctuations, how he instinctively comprehended when fatigue overwhelmed her physical stamina, how he regulated his typically vigorous pace to accommodate her gradually strengthening but still recovering constitution. Throughout the chemotherapy sessions that Sarah endured, Max demonstrated remarkable prescience regarding which particular days would prove most arduous for his beloved companion. On mornings preceding treatment appointments, he would awaken especially early, positioning himself beside her mattress with an expression that conveyed both solemn understanding and unwavering solidarity. He seemed to communicate through his profound gaze, "Whatever tribulations await you today, I shall traverse them alongside your journey." The medical oncology staff at the treatment facility grew familiar with Max's singular devotion. Although institutional regulations typically prohibited non-service animals from entering medical premises, they made exceptional accommodations for this remarkable canine whose detection abilities had initiated Sarah's life-preserving treatment protocol. Max would accompany Sarah to the facility's entrance, wait with stoic patience throughout her therapeutic sessions, and greet her emergence with gentle enthusiasm, carefully calibrated to her diminished energy reserves. Sarah's relatives, initially skeptical about attributing such extraordinary perceptive capabilities to a canine, became absolute believers after witnessing Max's continued demonstrations of uncanny awareness. Her younger sister Rebecca recalled a particular incident when Max refused to permit Sarah to lift a moderately weighted package, positioning his substantial body as an immovable barrier until Rebecca intervened to assume the physical burden. Later that afternoon, Sarah's physician contacted her with strict advisements to avoid any strenuous exertion due to temporarily compromised blood cell counts, information Max somehow intuited hours before medical confirmation arrived. The neighborhood gradually transformed in their perception of Max. No longer was he simply regarded as Sarah's loyal companion. He ascended to legendary status as the dog who possessed almost supernatural diagnostic abilities. Parents would gesture toward him during family walks, educating their offspring about the remarkable capacities that properly trained and deeply bonded animals could manifest. Some community members even approached Sarah with inquiries about whether Max might evaluate their own health concerns, requests she declined gently while explaining that Max's abilities were specifically attuned to her unique physiological markers. Throughout the recovery process, which extended across numerous challenging months, Max maintained his vigilant guardianship with unwavering consistency. He developed an elaborate system of subtle communications, a particular quality of whine that indicated Sarah should rest immediately, a specific manner of leaning against her legs that suggested she had maintained standing posture for excessive duration, a distinctive pattern of circling that preceded his insistence that she consume nutritional sustenance even when nausea diminished her appetite. The most remarkable transformation occurred not merely in Max's protective behaviors, but in Sarah's fundamental understanding of the profound connection possible between human and animal consciousness. She began researching extensively the documented cases of canines detecting various medical conditions, diabetes, seizures, different cancer types, and discovered an entire scientific field devoted to understanding these extraordinary sensory capabilities. German Shepherds, she learned, possessed approximately 225 million olfactory receptors, compared to humans' mere 5 million, enabling them to detect biochemical alterations at concentrations measured in parts per trillion. Yet Sarah comprehended that Max's intervention transcended mere biological explanation. Countless individuals possessed dogs with equivalent olfactory capabilities, yet their animals never demonstrated such persistent, focused determination to communicate a specific medical concern. What distinguished Max was the profound emotional bond they had cultivated throughout 5 years of shared existence, a connection so deep that he literally could not rest until he had successfully conveyed his desperate warning. When Sarah finally received her cancer-free diagnosis, the celebration proved bittersweet with profound emotion. She understood with absolute certainty that without Max's inexplicable persistence, without his refusal to cease his urgent communications, she likely would have postponed medical consultation until symptoms manifested, potentially discovering the malignancy only after it had progressed beyond effective treatment possibilities. Today, Sarah has transformed her experience into purposeful advocacy. She volunteers at cancer awareness organizations, sharing her narrative to encourage others to maintain vigilant attention to unusual animal behaviors and to trust their companions' instincts even when circumstances seem to defy rational explanation. She emphasizes that while not every dog possesses Max's specific detection abilities, the deep bonds humans forge with their animal companions often enable forms of communication that transcend conventional understanding. Max, now advancing into his senior years, continues his devoted guardianship with perhaps slightly diminished physical vigor but utterly undiminished emotional dedication. He remains Sarah's constant shadow, her protector, her early warning system, and most profoundly, the living embodiment of unconditional love manifested through furry form. Their story serves as testament to the extraordinary, often incomprehensible connections that flourish between humans and their animal companions, connections capable of transcending species boundaries, defying scientific explanation, and ultimately, saving lives through devotion that asks nothing in return except the privilege of remaining forever faithful.